I still remember that evening as clearly as if it happened yesterday. The late summer sun was sinking, and the air smelled of freshly cut grass mixed with a faint breeze that carried the sound of children laughing somewhere down the street. I had been pacing in front of the small white house on Maple Avenue for nearly 15 minutes, unsure if I had the courage to knock on the door. My hands were clammy, my chest felt tight, and my thoughts kept circling back to the same question: what if she doesn't want to see me? Her name was Emily Carter. We had been friends since college, two people who couldn't have been more different, yet somehow found comfort in each other's company. She was outspoken, bright, and always the kind of person who made every room warmer just by stepping into it. I was more cautious, thoughtful, and not nearly as brave as she was when it came to living life openly. But life has a way of creating distance, and somewhere along the line, our friendship, once as strong as steel, had thinned into silence. That silence had lasted almost 2 years. Then, out of nowhere, a simple message from Emily popped up on my phone 3 nights earlier. "Can you come by? We need to talk." Those words had been replaying in my mind over and over, louder than the traffic outside my apartment, louder than the chatter of coworkers at the office, louder than the doubt that had become part of my everyday life. And so, here I was, standing in front of her door, debating whether to walk away or find the courage to face her. Before I could make a decision, the door opened. Emily stood there barefoot, wearing an oversized gray t-shirt that looked like it had been pulled from a pile of laundry just minutes before. Her hair was pulled into a messy bun, and she had that familiar look on her face that I knew all too well, the one she wore when she had something heavy on her mind. She didn't waste a single second with pleasantries. She just looked me straight in the eye and said the words that froze me in place. "We need to talk." Her tone wasn't angry. It wasn't soft either. It was steady, filled with a kind of urgency that made my heart skip. I stepped inside without saying anything, the old wooden floor creaking under my shoes as I followed her into the living room. The house looked different than I remembered. There were framed photos on the wall of her with people I didn't recognize, shelves filled with books she probably read in the time we hadn't spoken, and a faint lavender scent in the air. It was her home, but it felt like stepping into a chapter of her life I had missed. She sat down on the couch, pulling her knees up and wrapping her arms around them. I remained standing, unsure if I should sit or stay on my feet. The silence stretched until I finally broke it. "You said we need to talk," I said quietly. Emily's eyes softened, but there was something behind them, something deeper than sadness. "We do," she answered. "But first, how are you?" It was such a simple question, yet it carried weight. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding and sat down across from her. "I'm managing," I replied. "Work keeps me busy. Life keeps moving, you know." She nodded, her gaze never leaving me. "Yeah, life does that. Sometimes faster than we expect." There was another pause. Then she leaned forward slightly, her voice dropping to a softer tone. "I didn't call you here just to catch up, Daniel. I called because I can't keep holding this in anymore." My chest tightened again. "Holding what in?" Her lips pressed together before she answered. "The truth. About why I disappeared. About why I stopped calling, stopped answering, stopped being part of your life." Her words cut through me. I had replayed those questions countless times in the past 2 years. Why she left without explanation. Why the person who once promised she'd always be there vanished, as if I never mattered. "Emily," I began, but she raised her hand gently. "Please," she said. "Let me say it first." I nodded. She closed her eyes for a moment before opening them again, her expression raw, unguarded. "I was scared. Scared of what was happening to me. Scared of what you'd think. Scared of facing it myself. So instead of leaning on you, instead of letting you in, I pushed you away." Her voice trembled slightly, but she kept going. "I got sick, Daniel. Not just a cold or the flu. It was more serious. Doctors said it could be managed, but at the time, it felt like the end of everything I knew. I didn't want you to see me like that, weak, uncertain, not the Emily you remembered. I thought if I cut you out, I could protect you. Protect us. But all I did was hurt the one person who cared about me the most." Her confession hung in the air, heavy and heartbreaking. I felt my throat tighten, my mind racing to process her words. "You should have told me," I whispered. "I know," she said, tears welling in her eyes. "But I didn't. And I regret it every single day." I leaned forward, my voice steady though my heart was racing. "Emily, you don't have to carry that alone anymore. Not now. Not ever again." She looked at me, her eyes wide, as if she didn't believe what she was hearing. "After everything? After I shut you out?" "Yes," I said firmly. "Because friendship isn't about being there only when it's convenient. It's about showing up when it's messy, when it's hard, when it feels impossible. You've been there for me more times than I can count. Now it's my turn." Her tears finally fell, and she buried her face in her hands, sobbing quietly. I moved to sit beside her, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. For the first time in years, the silence between us wasn't filled with distance, but with understanding. We sat there for what felt like hours, talking about everything we had missed, the hospital visits, the lonely nights, the battles she had fought quietly while pretending to be strong for everyone else. She told me about the people in the photos on her wall, support groups who had become like family when she felt she couldn't reach out to me. I told her about my own struggles, the loneliness of losing her, the way I had tried to fill the void with work and distractions, but never truly succeeded. As the night grew darker and the cicadas outside began their song, something shifted between us. The weight of unspoken words had been lifted, replaced by a fragile but undeniable hope. When I finally stood to leave, Emily walked me to the door. She was still barefoot, still in that oversized t-shirt, but she looked lighter somehow, as if sharing her truth had freed her from a prison she had built around herself. "Thank you for coming," she said softly. "Thank you for opening the door," I replied. She smiled, and for the first time in years, it felt like the Emily I remembered. That night wasn't about romance or dramatic twists. It was about truth, forgiveness, and the reminder that sometimes the most powerful words are the simplest ones. We need to talk. Because sometimes those words are the beginning of healing. And for Emily and me, they were the start of finding our way back to each other, one honest conversation at a time.